Dem/demo comes from the Greek word meaning people. Government by the people was invented by the ancient Greeks, so it's appropriate that they were the first to come up with a word for it, demokratia, or democracy. Demographic having to do with the study of human populations, especially their size, growth, density, and patterns of living. Each year the state government uses the most current demographic figures to determine how to distribute its funding for education. Demographic analysis, the statistical description of human populations, is a tool used by government agencies, political parties, and manufacturers of consumer goods. Polls conducted on every topic imaginable, from age to toothpaste preference, give the government and corporations an idea of who the public is and what it needs and wants. The government census, which is conducted every 10 years, is the largest demographic survey of all. Today, demographic is also being used as a noun, so, for example, TV advertisers are constantly worrying about how to appeal to the 18 to 24-year-old demographic. Endemic, 1. Found only in a given place or region. 2. Often found in a given occupation, area, or environment. Malaria remains endemic in tropical regions around the world. With its "en" prefix, endemic means literally in the population. Since the panda is found in the wild exclusively in central China and eastern Tibet, scientists say it's endemic to those areas. But the word can also mean simply common or typical, so we can say that corruption is endemic in the government of a country, that colds are endemic in nursery school, or that love of Barbie dolls is endemic among young American girls. Don't confuse endemic with epidemic. Something can be endemic in a region for centuries without ever exploding. Demagogue, a political leader who appeals to the emotions and prejudices of people in order to arouse discontent and to advance his or her own political purposes. His supporters called him a man of the people, his enemies called him a lying demagogue. Demagogue was once defined by the writer H. L. Mencken as one who will preach doctrines he knows to be untrue to men he knows to be idiots, and Mencken's definition still works quite well. The doctrines, ideas, preached by demagogues will naturally always be the kind that appeal directly to the ordinary voter, the common man or little guy. Appealing to the common people is not itself a bad thing, but it has often been used by those who calculate that demagoguery, or demagogy, is the easiest way to power. In most countries, fear of demagogic leaders is so strong that voters aren't even permitted to vote directly for the nation's leader, but instead vote only for a local representative. Demotic, popular or common. Partly because of television, the demotic language and accents of America's various regions have become more and more similar. For many years, demotic was used only to describe the writing of ancient Egypt, as the name of the script used by ordinary Egyptians rather than by their priests. Demotic is still an intellectual word, but it can now be used to describe any popular style in contrast to a style associated with a higher class, especially a style of speech or writing. So, for example, demotic Californian is different from demotic Texan. The most demotic dress today is probably blue jeans and sneakers, and those who wear them have demotic taste in fashion. The problem is, in American society it can sometimes be hard to find a style that can't be described as demotic. Popul comes from the Latin word meaning people, and in fact forms the basis of the word people itself. So the population is the people of an area, and popular means not only liked by many people but also, as in popular culture, relating to the general public. Populist, a believer in the rights, wisdom, or virtues of the common people. He knew he would have to campaign as a populist in order to appeal to the working-class voters. The word populist first appeared in the 1890s with the founding of the Populist Party, which stood for the interests of the farmers against the big money interests. In later years, populism came to be associated with the blue-collar class in the cities as well. Populism can be hard to predict. It sometimes has a religious tendency. It usually isn't very interested in international affairs, it has sometimes been unfriendly to immigrants and blacks, and it's often anti-intellectual. So populism often switches between liberal and conservative. But the populist style always shows its concern with Americans with average incomes as opposed to the rich and powerful. Populace. 1. The common people or masses. 2. Population. Perhaps Henry Ford's major achievement was to manufacture a car that practically the entire populace could afford. The Model T. Populace is usually used to refer to all the people of a country. Thus, we're often told that an educated and informed populace is essential for a healthy American democracy. Franklin D. Roosevelt's famous radio fireside chats informed and reassured the American populace in the 1930s as we struggled through the Great Depression. We often hear about what the general populace is thinking or doing, but generalizing about something so huge can be tricky. Populace: numerous, densely settled, or having a large population. Most Americans can't locate Indonesia, the fourth most populous country in the world, on a map. With a metropolitan area of more than 20 million people, Mexico City could be called the world's second or third most populous city. And the nearby Aztec city of Tenochtitlan was one of the largest cities in the world even when Hernán Cortés arrived there in 1519. But by the time Cortés conquered the city in 1521, it wasn't nearly so populous, since European diseases had greatly reduced the population. Avoid confusing populace and populace, which are pronounced exactly the same.